What's good, y'all? It's your boy Havoc. Final round. We about to break this fight down. We got Dimitri Bivol versus Canelo Alvarez. I'm going to come with my prediction. I won't be too long-winded, but let's get into it. I have Canelo Alvarez winning this fight by TKO or knockout from rounds 8 to 12. Now, it wouldn't shock me if it goes the distance, but I don't think Bivol is going to win on the scorecards. Not very likely to me. But I do think the knockout or TKO will come, and I say that because I don't think Bivol has enough in his arsenal to slow Canelo down, to make adjustments, to get Canelo out of his game, which is going to probably be putting pressure, cutting off the ring, breaking Bivol down to the body. I do think you will see certain points and pockets in the fight. Canelo will back off. He'll be a little bit more defensive. He'll try to box a little bit, but that's the beauty of Canelo. He's a pound-for-pound great fighter, and pound-for-pound great fighters have the ability to mold and adjust and adapt and show you different looks, which I don't see from Bivol. You know, never want to underestimate any boxer, right? You just never know. It usually comes when you least expect it, like Teofimo Lopez versus Kambosos. Not too many people foresaw Kambosos winning that fight, but there's a lot of unforeseen factors that we don't know sometimes. You know, Teofimo Lopez, supposedly his woman was running around town, you know, opening her legs to everybody, and that can mess with you mentally. You know, he's having trouble cutting weight. You know, and Kambosos, a lot of us underestimated how much of a champion he felt he was, and a lot of us didn't think about all the rounds he put in with Manny Pacquiao and how that experience probably played a huge role in him helping him win that fight. It's just a lot of unforeseen things sometimes. So, you know, you never know. Maybe Bivol comes out and he shows us something that we've never seen him do before. He takes a chance. He takes a risk. Comes up with the perfect game plan. Canelo's off for a night. You never know, but I just have to go based off of my criteria and what I've seen. I just don't see enough from Bivol. I know some of these Russian fighters, they're pretty straight up and down too. I think of like Sergey Kovalev. Once Andre Ward got past that intimidation factor of the power and the big puncher, all Kovalev really had was a 1-2. You know, and Andre Ward understand, I'm going to drag you to deep waters. I'm going to beat your body down, and then, you know, I'm going to have my way with you. And there just wasn't much left that Kovalev had once Ward figured that out. And I think Canelo's going to do the same thing. I think he'll get Bivol's timing down. I think it'll be a little bit difficult in the beginning rounds. I would not be shocked if Bivol wins some of the beginning rounds. But don't let that fool you. Let Canelo set up his game. Okay, and just because Bivol is winning some of the early rounds doesn't necessarily mean he's winning the fight particularly. Maybe in a certain context, right, technically speaking. But I think of like Mayweather-McGregor or Canelo versus Caleb. You know, let these guys knew what they were doing, right? Even though you could technically make an argument, Mayweather was down on the scorecards against Conor McGregor. It's just disingenuous to say like, oh, Conor McGregor was getting the upper hand or he was winning that fight at some point. Yes, in a very broad sense, you could say that, but at the end of the night, we all knew that Mayweather had complete control of that fight. He understood, I'm going to let this dude shoot his load. He's going to get tired. I'll give up rounds. I'll be just fine. I'll take some shots, and then I'll knock him out. Same with Canelo versus Caleb Plant. A lot of people say, well, Caleb Plant gave Canelo trouble, or Amir Khan, or Billy Joe Sutton. No, they didn't. Canelo was in complete control of those fights. He was setting up his game. He's assessing you for the first few rounds. He's going to see what your timing and rhythm is like. And then once he figures that out, he goes for the kill. Now, one guy who did a good job, we obviously know Mayweather did his thing against Canelo, but one guy who a lot of people don't give enough credit to, who actually had a great game plan against Canelo. No, he didn't win the fight, but I thought it was the second best performance that, well, I guess you could throw Triple G in there. But other than that, I thought Danny Jacobs did a great job facing Canelo. And, you know, if he got the better of the exchanges, he probably could have made it more interesting. But I don't see how Bivol's going to keep up in the later rounds. I think his best asset in this fight, which is his footwork, will turn against him. You know, it's great to move, but sometimes that can be used against you when you got a guy who's a pressure fighter who cuts off the ring, who goes down to the body, who could make you miss defensively. All those things exponentially start to work against you. And if your best asset is your footwork, and now he's taking that asset away from you. Now he's forcing you to fight in a way you don't want to fight, where you can't move your feet. And Bivol hasn't really shown me that he has that ability to do all those different things. Now, if Bivol can go into this fight and he can give different looks, he can change his guard, he can switch stances. Not that you need to, but, just give different looks and not be so predictable and not be stuck in one pace or rhythm, then I would say, okay, he has a great shot at winning. Once again, I think he will give Canelo some trouble at certain pockets, keyword pockets in the fight. But I think Canelo will figure it out. Like I said, these Russian fighters, once you kind of see what's going on and get their timing and rhythm down, there's not much left they have to present and offer. And really good. Bivol's a good fighter, but I think he just stylistically, this favors Canelo Alvarez. And Bivol does not go down to the body enough for my liking. I know a lot of people are saying, well, Bivol can't go down because if he goes down to the body against a shorter guy, he's going to get countered with the overhand right. Well, look what happened to Billy Joe. Look what happened to Mir Khan. Look what happened to Caleb Plant. Those guys did not go to the body enough. And look what happened to Triple G. Triple G could have probably made those fights a lot easier if he went downstairs. Once again, easier said than done when you got a great big power puncher like Canelo Alvarez. But what's the alternative? All those guys, with the exception of Triple G, got knocked out. Broken orbital, broken this, broken that, because they did not want to take those risks. So, I mean, if you look at it just logically, well, I know if I don't go down to the body, there's a good chance that I could get knocked the fuck out. So maybe I should go to the body. And let's see what happens. And you saw it with Danny Jacobs, who was the bigger fighter. A lot of people don't give Danny Jacobs enough credit for that fight against Canelo, but he did a lot of good things to keep himself in that fight and keep it competitive considering his skill set and talent compared to Canelo. But one of the things that Danny Jacobs, to keep himself in that fight against Canelo, was he went downstairs and matched Canelo's body attack. As a result, Canelo started abandoning, cutting off the ring, and putting pressure because Danny Jacobs slowed him down, got his respect. Okay? And Canelo couldn't walk him down the way he completely wanted to, so Canelo had to make adjustments and box off the back, not box off the back foot, but kind of stay at mid-range and make Danny Jacobs miss and counter. But that's why it's so hard to beat Canelo. Even if you do have a good answer for him, he has another response for you. He can make adjustments. He can adapt, and he constantly finds a way to do that. And so Danny Jacobs, didn't have any more moves after that. So I don't see how Dimitri Bivol is going to get the job done. I think his legs are going to be used against him in the later rounds. He's not going to be able to keep up that tempo, pace, and rhythm. I don't think he's going to go down the body. Even if he wanted to, I'm not going to underestimate him because you never know. But, that's not something you pick up overnight, believe it or not. You don't just start throwing body shots effectively and consistently overnight. That's something you have to work on throughout your whole career. And that's just not what Bivol does. I think the biggest thing for Bivol is going to be, hopefully he has very respectable power to get Canelo's respect, because if he doesn't, man, I think he's going to get walked down eventually. And I just think he's a little bit too predictable in some of his combinations. And I think Canelo's going to get to him eventually. But I think Bivol will make it interesting. I think he will be a little bit awkward. I think he'll land some nice punches. But if Canelo does what he always does, I think the pressure will get to Bivol, and him being a bigger guy, light heavyweight, and sticking and moving in and out like that, that's going to catch up to him. I've seen Bivol get a little winded in some of the later rounds of his fights. So now add that with a power puncher who snatches bodies. It's not going to be a good combination for Bivol. But you never know in the sport of boxing, man, when somebody just, they steal the night. You just never know when the biggest upset in the history of the sport comes, or the next big one. But I got Canelo winning this fight. I think he's going to handle business. If this was Better Biev, I would be more intrigued with it. I would give Better Biev a good chance at making this fight interesting. But Canelo, he just keeps on getting better and better after every fight. And one thing I did think that he did struggle with fleet-footed fighters at a certain point, but he keeps on answering the bell, man. He keeps on answering the call over and over. Every time he faces a fleet-footed fighter, he gets the job done. And I'm not really concerned about that anymore because he's proven. I had a legitimate question, and I was genuinely interested to say, well, can he beat fleet-footed fighters? And he's been handling his business against Amir Khan, Billy Joe Sanders, Caleb Plant now, Dimitri Bivol, and even against Danny Jacobs when he went up against him in that fight. He's shown that he knows how to handle that. And he handles that by cutting off the ring, putting pressure, going down to the body. And what's cool is he doesn't even need to utilize his jab. He's almost learned to find range through his opponent's jab, which is pretty cool because his opponents can't counter him. And he can counter his opponent. And, he's also finds range through his left hook to the body. But I think the biggest weapon and key factor for Canelo in this fight is going to be that iconic right hook to the hip that you saw him set up against Amir Khan, and then ultimately land that big overhand right. That's going to be his biggest weapon in this fight. Obviously, the left hook is another one, but landing that right hook, because Bivol's going to want to pivot out. He's going to want to pivot out to that left, and what's going to be there? He's going to run into that right hook to the hip. And that's another thing. I don't think Bivol is creative enough in his movement in terms of not just like going in and out and pivoting, but, L step to your right. I don't know if his clinch game is good, how good that is, because you're going to need that when you get pinned to the corner or the ropes. He's not a switch hitter, so he's not going to be able to change the positioning and angles. I just think he's pretty predictable at a certain point with his movement, and he likes going in and out. And if Canelo, with his good footwork and understanding positioning, he may be able to exploit that and catch Bivol as he's stepping outwards, throwing a double jab, right hook to the body. Be on the lookout for that combination, double jab or feints with the lead, the two jabs, right hook to the body. So I just don't see it for Bivol. I got Canelo Alvarez winning. Let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Cheers to you if you join, and cheers to my subscribers. Let's get it. Great fight coming up tonight. I'll see you guys on the post.